Hey guys, just making a video for the content from November 27th. So when we're doing shoulder retraction with the band, you are reaching your fist through the loop, you're grabbing onto both sides of the straps, so you're holding two bands, two sides in one hand, arm completely straight, and you're securing your arm back down and inward to the torso. Inward meaning you're imagining someone's trying to pull your armpit and arm this way, and you shrug that armpit into the torso like it's secure. Down and slow, 20 reps or so. Rotation of that shoulder, if you're holding a band, would be something like this, and we'll work on that later today, so you know that option. You can do this one that like PTs recommend. Just make sure you have something under your elbow, and I don't think either of you have that kind of shoulder pain right now, so I don't know if it's worth your time right now, as long as you're doing your cars. Okay, shoulder, bent arm shoulder, and swimmers, and then I'll send a separate video for the other stuff. Shoulder car, standing as tall as you can, eyes up, and keeping your rib cage in and down. You're going to go up in the front in any planting of the shoulder for now, meaning palm facing anywhere you want, but I chose to have my palm facing forward at the top of flexion. From this point on, I don't go any further back if it makes my head drop, and I go slowly back and down with my armpit to let me internally rotate or pour salt. As I'm pouring salt, I'm looking for further abduction or back space to reach back. As I'm doing that, I'm continuing to internally rotate or pour salt while also keeping my head as still as possible. If I have all the range of motion that day, that means I'll be mostly facing pinky forward and back of the arm in when I get down to my butt. Continuing, since you guys are doing 2 in a row, I'll go up, my palms facing forward at the top of shoulder flexion. I'm moving my shoulder blade to the side so that I can find internal rotation. I'm constantly seeking internal rotation as I go back, down, and in narrow to the torso. Switching direction, I go as far back as I can internally rotated. I switch to external rotation. I'm always pushing down on the same side foot, so this is my right arm, right big toe and foot down to keep right hip as still as possible. As I seek external rotation or opening a door handle, I come up and over, trying to keep my head still. And then again, when you're in the front, you're always welcome to smash your pec by going across the middle of your torso. Number 2, I will internally rotate at my hip. I will continue back until I feel my tricep burn or my head move, like I think it just did. Keeping my shoulder blades back, I will externally rotate my shoulder, and then I'm coming up while seeking external rotation. Remember not to seek range of motion ever when you're doing a shoulder car. Allow the range of motion you have. Bent arm shoulder cars are basically the same global motion that you just drew on a straight arm shoulder car, but keeping something contracted to isolate. I'm using my wallet. You can use rolled up towel, socks, anything, lacrosse ball, if it doesn't squirt out when you're sweaty. When I go up in the front, I'm going across the pectoral, keeping my body as still as possible. I'm slowly going back and up, out and around, and at this point I'm coming down, in, narrowly through. To show you that all from the side, I'll keep my head still, contract, inward across the pectoral, fist slowly behind the ear. Try not to let the elbow come outward until the last moment possible. Then isolate elbow outward as far as possible. Isolate rotating the shoulder and bringing the fist down and back. Isolate chopping the elbow forward while in tight to the midline or the rib cage. 2 in a row. Now the same thing the other direction. Going back slowly. You can put your hand on your belly if you want to remind you not to turn or to extend like this. Hold still. Inhale through the diaphragm. Keep it expanded whenever possible. Slowly 2 in the other direction. Always making sure to squeeze slightly more throughout the session, but again, not looking for range of motion, just allowing the range of motion that occurs. It will always get bigger until a point. Prone shoulder rinses. Rinses just mean twisting any joint while contracting it. It doesn't matter where you place it. So for example, right here, almost like half of the Y of the YMCA, I will get this hand, push-up position, tuck tailbone, squeeze glutes, inhale through the diaphragm, twist, shoulder. I'm only thinking about what can I do with control, no momentum, how much can I squeeze my fist and reach it away from me while I pull my shoulder towards me. That straightens out my arm as much as possible. I can work on building more tension here every day. I can put that arm anywhere, and the rinsing just refers to where I'm doing twist work. Twist work scours your joint, tells your joint to stay nice and open and fluid, and then when you go do your strength work, it should be a more comfortable process. Prone push-up position lift-offs. This is great to complement your swimmer. You can do this before your swimmer, because assuming you're only doing your swimmers, if you've already done your standing shoulder cars and rinses and prepped for this kind of stuff. I like fists on the ground, but you're welcome to do palms. You will want to tuck your tailbone like we always do in this position, and you will also want to have your forehead on something, or if it's comfortable on the ground. Then we practice 2 different drills here. 10 slow raises of the fists off the ground, and 10 slow elbow extensions, single arm if you need more control, or double arm. So single arm, extend off the ground, which is extending your shoulders. This is extending your elbow. When I flex my elbow, I try to keep my fist as high off the ground as possible. So I want my extension to come from that tricep burning like a skull crusher. I do not want to try to leverage from my whole back or swing around a lot or move my low spine, anything like that. Nice and stable. If I'm doing both arms, it instantly gets a lot harder, and I'm also then going to work on elbows in if I do both arms. Prone single hip rotations. So we've done frog stance and prone. I think prone can be a good step if you ever find that when you get into frog, you're like, oh man, my back doesn't like it today, or inner thigh, one's tighter than the other. You can work on single hip, kind of like a dog at a fire hydrant. And what I'm going to work on is tension building, hands in push-up position, tailbone tucked, so that I know that when I lift my moving leg, it's really not coming from my back. It's coming from my hip. First, I push down really hard on the foot to try to get a tiny bit of daylight on the outside of the hip. If you're able to yank it up, you're probably cheating. You want to think, this is my left leg, so left toes, slowly more pressure into the ground. Slowly more, slowly more. Is my tailbone still tucked? Are my glutes still tight? Now I can try to lift. It should be pretty miserable. The other way is more intuitive, but we also want to take care as we internally rotate and lift the foot in the back that we're not having any momentum, because it'll probably come from the back shifting, which looks like this. So if I'm stable, if I'm moving very carefully, I can lift my leg, but it should feel very much like it's corkscrewing below in my hip capsule, not in my spine motion.